Good afternoon, Burlingame. It's been an exciting week with a lot of emails about masking after the governor's announcement on Monday that the mandate for schools would end on the 12th, which is the 14th, would be our next day of school. For those of you that are more readers of bullets, you will see that I've bulleted out an outline of the district's response and path forward. For those of you that prefer videos, I'm enclosing this video, although when I do videos, it tends to be a little bit more of sort of an encapsulation and summary, so I might miss a few points that I put in the bullet. So first of all, I want to celebrate that once again, 20 months into navigating the pandemic. Since I've been here, we've continued to be successful. No spread at our school sites. All of our health and safety protocol followed. Keeping schools open, keeping them healthy, and taking care of our responsibilities to educate our children, which is super important to me. I've also would like to point out that in the past couple of weeks, I'd like to celebrate that masking stopped outside, that assemblies have begun outside with our children. Outside groups are now coming on and doing assemblies, so some of that fun stuff is coming back, and more will continue to come back as the COVID situation improves for all of us. The other thing is that volunteers are back. So starting next week, I think it is, volunteers are back. I would ask for your patience as our head of HR is out for some medical reasons, and so some of the central processing of those has slowed down. Certainly not intentional. We have a very small staff, and as soon as she's back, she'll be able to catch up on that. But masking. So the 14th, Burlingame School District will continue to mask. However, we will make masking optional when we return from our spring break at the end of March. And so we are continuing to mask only for 2 more weeks, which allows for some discussions to happen in households as well as at school sites to make sure that everybody is prepared. It's been a long time, folks. We've all been through this, and there's a lot of feelings on both sides. And it also comes with the caveat that if we have another outbreak like the Delta or the Omicron, I mean, these are things we remember and are conversant about now. But if we have another outbreak, and if indeed there's something that shows us that our community transmission is going up again, then we will start masking again. But as of today, looking at where the data is going, we will not be requiring masking anymore after we return from spring break, which I believe is April 4th, if I remember correctly. So what does that mean? That doesn't mean that you can't mask. So masking will become optional. Many families have expressed that although they would still like the choice to mask, that it's time to make it an individual family discussion. So families over spring break, please make sure you have those discussions with your children and that you outline the pros and cons. Masking is still the recommendation for keeping kids safe, not just from COVID, but it turns out from the flu. That's something we've learned during the past couple of years. So have that conversation in your family, and also prepare your child to have that conversation when others ask them why they are or are not masking. Adults in our schools, have the conversations with your own families and figure out what is your comfortability with masking or not masking at school. And it doesn't have to be an all or nothing decision, right? So it'll be an option. Just like when you're outside, you have the option now and you determine your own level of comfortability. For example, when you're doing a large group lesson in your classroom, you might choose to unmask. Whereas if you're doing a small group activity where you're very close to other humans, face to face, as it were, you might choose to continue to mask. So think that through. Talk with your school staff, talk with your principal, and make sure you have some thoughts about what's going to make you comfortable. One thing we will do is we will still respect everybody's choices after we've gone through this transition, and we'll make sure everybody feels comfortable in their choice and mitigate any kind of pressure that is felt. We need to still be respectful and thoughtful. This also means that coming back from spring break, that our gathering rules will change. So no longer will we be limiting gatherings on our campuses to under 50, and then masking will also be optional. So work with your principals. We have a lot of pent up energy and excitement from our PTAs, especially as they have started assemblies before the governor made this announcement. We have a lot of pent up excitement to start assemblies and bringing folks on campus to interact with our kids and provide enrichment activities. There's all sorts of groups that we do that with. However, it does need to be coordinated with your principal because most of those activities require a certificated staff member, the principal or a teacher, to make sure that they are being supervised appropriately. Interact with your principals and make sure that it has their approval. Because remember, we only have one principal at every site, and if they have to supervise it, it means walking away from potentially other work that they have planned that day. So definitely coordinate those activities with principals. That also means a return to more activities on our campuses in the evenings, on the weekends, during holidays, whether it's our Parks and Rec partnership or activities planned by our PTAs or community organizations starting to use our campuses again, which is also started up. We've started to host meetings and whatnot again. So do it thoughtfully, do it with good communication with your principal, and do it again respectfully. Understand that people are all in different places after 2 years of this, and there's a lot to move forward on. I will continue to monitor the number of cases per 100,000 for the district as it continues to update. Data is starting to really look good, and everybody started feeling a little bit of hope as spring arrives. It's a nice feeling to think of, and we're all looking forward to being able to feel like we're returning to a bit more normal. So move forward, be respectful, be thoughtful, and continue the conversation at your school sites, knowing that it looks like we're going to be optional after spring break. So another milestone accomplished, Burlingame. Good job. Continue the patience, continue the understanding, and continue the conversations that are positive and uplifting. Remember, that is the goal of our conversations around education when we talk to our neighbors and our children and our teachers. And good job, teachers, for hanging in there, and the parent groups, my different parent advisory groups and PTAs, for giving me input, principals for giving me input, teachers for giving me some great survey data, and I really appreciate the quick turnaround from everybody, as once again we have to pivot, as we've been pivoting now for a couple of years around COVID. My biggest hope is that we get to return to educational issues in the not so distant future. Thank you all very much and have a wonderful weekend.